Bethesda announced Elder Scrolls 6 with a 36-second trailer in 2018. It is now 2026. Todd Howard called the wait too long. This is the Elder Scrolls 6 Cope tier list. Oblivion. Remastered Shadow dropped on April 22, 2025, landed on Game Pass with zero warning, and approximately 14,000 people on Reddit immediately decided this meant Elder Scrolls 6 was dropping next Tuesday. No announcement, teaser, and marketing, just vibes and a remaster. The Shadow drop believers aren't completely wrong. The Oblivion surprise was real. Microsoft did bypass its own marketing machine for a mid-tier nostalgia drop. But TES 6 isn't a remaster of a 20-year-old game. It's the flagship title for an entire console generation, carrying 65 million Skyrim copies worth of expectation. Microsoft does not shadow drop its nuclear weapons. It could happen, man. They did it with Oblivion. They did it with Oblivion, a game everyone already owned. Partial credit for the vindication, zero credit for the extrapolation. C tier. Hammerfell, rocky desert coastline, Alik'r Bay. Fans have been pointing at 6 seconds of geological footage from June 2018 and screaming, "That's it," for going on 7 years now. And here's the thing, they're probably right. The 36-second E3 teaser dropped with zero context, dialogue, and map pin. What it did have was a distinctive rocky shoreline that, cross-referenced against in-game Hammerfell geography, matches the Alik'r Bay region with uncomfortable accuracy. Fans went frame by frame on 6 seconds of desert cliff footage, like it was the Zapruder film. Then Bethesda said nothing, not a single PR non-answer about exploring all of Tamriel. Complete radial silence from June 2018 straight through to now, which, in Bethesda terms, is apparently the closest thing to a wink you're going to get. The Hammerfell theory isn't built on vibes. It's built on geography, precedent, and the loudest silence in gaming history. The terrain is literally the Alik'r Desert. It's not even subtle. And Bethesda has had 7 years to say otherwise. A tier. 7 years of next year, 7. The fans who swore TES 6 was dropping in 2019 are now swearing 2028, which is impressive consistency for being consistently wrong. They've had a rolling target since the original E3 teaser, nudging it forward 12 months at a time like a due date nobody wants to cancel. 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2024, 2025. Each year comes, each year goes. Jason Schreier's Bloomberg report in July 2026 stated plainly, at least 2 to 3 more years, minimum. Todd Howard himself told GQ in November 2025, "The wait has been too long." Somehow, both an apology and a promise to keep making you wait. The consensus has quietly shuffled to 2028 or 2029, which sounds like optimism. It is not optimism. It is year 8 of the same cope wearing a different calendar. D tier. Now here's where the fan theories stop being solo acts and start forming bands. The High Rock Dual Region theory argues TES 6 won't just cover Hammerfell, it'll run the full Alik'r Bay package, Hammerfell and High Rock simultaneously, basically a 2-province road trip in one game. Fans point to Bethesda's expanding scope pattern. Morrowind was one island, Oblivion was Cyrodiil plus the Shivering Isles, Skyrim shipped with Solstheim. The logic tracks that a studio under Microsoft pressured to justify a decade-long wait isn't shipping half a map. The teaser's coastline, that same 36-second clip everyone's been dissecting since June 2018, sits ambiguously enough along the Alik'r Bay border that cartographers and Reddit archaeologists alike have placed it in both provinces depending on the lighting filter they squint through that afternoon. And honestly, Todd Howard calling the wait too long in his November 2025 GQ interview does suggest they know they owe fans something substantial. The thing is, Bethesda also promised Starfield would justify its scope. We remember how that landed. C tier. Okay, so here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud, but the numbers keep saying it for them. Fallout 76 launched in November 2018 as an unfinished multiplayer disaster that somehow charged $60 for the privilege. Redfall shipped in May 2023 and averaged a 55 on Metacritic, which is the gaming equivalent of a participation trophy. Starfield dropped with 6 million players in its first week, then quietly bled out of cultural relevance by month 2. And then, in July 2026, Bethesda absorbed a round of layoffs, while Jason Schreier was simultaneously reporting the studio still needs at least 2 more years. That's 4 consecutive public stumbles spread across 8 years. And somehow, the theory here isn't that TES 6 will be bad, it's that Bethesda has organizationally forgotten how to be good. The institutional knowledge drain, the Microsoft overhead, the pressure to justify a decade-long wait for a single game. The doomer math is uncomfortably clean, but Skyrim sold 65 million copies, which apparently insulates you from consequences forever. Or at least we're about to find out. See tier. Now here's a theory that tells you more about the fans than the game. The creation engine must die. Crowd has been insisting since Starfield's 2023 launch that Bethesda would scrap their proprietary engine entirely and rebuild TES 6 from scratch. New engine, clean slate, no more clipping mammoths. Todd Howard has publicly defended the updated creation engine multiple times. Starfield ran on it, shipped on it, was reviewed on it, and then got quietly abandoned culturally on it. Bethesda has never hinted at an engine switch, no job listings, no infrastructure pivot, no leaked tech stack change. Just fans deciding their frustration with Starfield's jank constitutes a dev roadmap. Building a new engine from zero would add another 4 to 6 years minimum, which, given the current timeline, would put TES 6 somewhere around the heat death of the universe. D tier. Now look. The FTC via Microsoft courtroom drama from 2023 accidentally handed Elder Scrolls fans the most dangerous thing imaginable, an official-looking document with a number on it. The filing, obtained by The Verge, listed TES 6 as expected 2026 or later, PC and Xbox only. That's a real legal document, real court, paper, and lawyers. And the internet collectively treated, or later, like fine print on a lottery ticket they'd already won. The thing is, placeholder estimates in antitrust filings exist to satisfy regulators, not to announce release windows. Microsoft's legal team needed a ballpark. They wrote one down. Fans screenshot it, laminated it spiritually, and started circling 2026 on their calendars with permanent marker. Then 2026 arrived. Jason Schreier dropped his Bloomberg report in July saying at least 2-3 more years. The FTC document aged about as well as a cliff racer in a fire. The court document told you, or later, you just heard 2026. Legally binding cope is still cope. C tier. Todd Howard sat down with Variety in 2026 and said, on record, that The Elder Scrolls 6 is fully playable. Matt Booty, Xbox's chief content officer, backed it up by confirming he had personally seen the game running in engine. 2 senior executives, 1 interview. Fans went absolutely feral. And look, on paper, that sounds significant. Fully playable is not nothing. That means a build exists. Levels load, characters move, something resembling a game functions on actual hardware. Todd even confirmed the majority of Bethesda is working full-time on it. But then Jason Schreier dropped his Bloomberg report the same month, July 2026, and quietly inserted a 2-3 more years minimum caveat, like a pharmacist stapling warning labels to your prescription Copium. The thing is, fully playable in game development language means roughly what structurally sound means in real estate listings. Technically accurate. Practically, you're still staring at exposed plumbing and a missing roof. Fans heard fully playable and somehow translated it to we're basically at the finish line, which is the same mental gymnastics as calling a half-baked loaf basically bread. It's going to be a while yet. Todd Howard, February 2025. He told you himself twice in different interviews. Fully playable just means it won't crash every time Todd loads it. B tier. Oblivion. Remastered Shadow dropped April 22, 2025 on Game Pass with zero warning. A full remaster of a beloved classic quietly detonated onto the internet like Bethesda accidentally left it in someone's coat pocket. Fans immediately connected dots. The theory, this wasn't generosity, it was calculated hype maintenance. A tide you over release engineered to rewarm the Elder Scrolls fanbase before a TES6 reveal, doubling as grassroots marketing groundwork. Here's the thing, it's not crazy. Remastering Skyrim's direct predecessor right as TES6 enters full development is either genius brand priming or the world's most convenient coincidence. Bethesda dropped nostalgia fuel at peak fan impatience. Obviously, the timing is suspicious enough to be credible. The cynicism required to call it pure strategy, though, that lands squarely in the same neighborhood as Todd's next move. B tier. Todd Howard has said, next-gen experience, fully playable, and it'll be worth the wait so many times that veteran fans treat his press quotes like a magic 8-ball. Shake it, get hope, flip it over, find nothing. The theory here isn't even a theory, it's a spreadsheet. Cynics have cataloged every Howard promise since 2018, Skyrim on refrigerators, next-gen, the Variety 2026, fully playable. Quote, then November 2025 hits, Todd sits down with GQ and admits the wait has been too long, which sounds exactly like a man who just hired a new PR consultant. Too long is not an apology, it's a warm-up. Veteran TES fans recognize the spin cycle, acknowledgement of fan pain, careful silence, then eventually a trailer. They've watched this movie before. And the GQ admission didn't come with a date, it came with still a long way off in the very next breath. Todd didn't break character, he just updated the script. Which leads perfectly into the next panic, because even if Todd delivers, there's still the question of who's you're allowed to buy it from. C tier. Phil Spencer sat down with GQ in 2021 and said he wanted to deliver the full complete package on Xbox for Elder Scrolls 6. One sentence, exclusivity confirmed. PlayStation's 65 million Skyrim players collectively stared at that quote like it personally owed them money. The debate that followed is genuinely fascinating. Some fans argue Game Pass Day 1 softens the blow by lowering the barrier to entry on PC. Others argue it fundamentally locks out a generation of PlayStation native TES fans who built their entire identity around Whiterun. The FTC court docs already established PC and Xbox only. Spencer just said the quiet part loud 2 years earlier. But the most painful part isn't the exclusivity, it's that Game Pass makes it technically accessible, while remaining completely unavailable to anyone who bought a PS5. Accessibility apparently has a subscription fee. C tier. Then there's the Elsewhere crowd. A small but passionate faction noticed what they claim is a background map detail in an older Bethesda video. One frame, barely visible, apparently showing Khajiit territory. That's it. That's the entire foundation. No developer statement, corroborating leak, and no teaser geography that remotely suggests jungle desert Khajiit homeland. Just pure pattern, matching from a single blurry frame somebody paused at 2 a.m. and decided was prophecy. The audacity alone deserves recognition. D tier. Pete Hines stood in front of a microphone in 2023 and told the world TES6 had officially left pre-production. Fans exhaled. Development had started. The wait was measurable now. But a segment of the community immediately called it spin. Their argument, pre-production at Bethesda is famously elastic. Starfield was still consuming the entire studio through 2023, and leaving pre-production could mean almost anything operationally. They weren't entirely wrong to be suspicious. Then Bethesda dropped a 2024 confirmation that full development was genuinely underway, which partially deflated the theory without completely burying it, because the skeptics had been circling something real. The gap between Hines' announcement and the 2024 clarification is exactly 1 year of ambiguity that nobody at Bethesda has cleanly explained. Apparently, PR announcements and actual development milestones aren't always the same document. C tier. Then there's the theory that doesn't require any faith at all, just arithmetic. The sober realist camp took Jason Schreier's July 2026 Bloomberg Q&A, wrote 2028 floor at the top of a spreadsheet, and started doing actual math. Bethesda's documented dev cycles run 5 to 7 years. Pre-production officially ended in 2023. Full development confirmed in 2024. Plug those numbers in, and 2028 isn't optimism. It's the minimum viable answer. If everything goes right, nobody gets laid off again, and Todd Howard doesn't suddenly announce Skyrim Anniversary, Deluxe, Remastered Edition to buy another year. And Jez Corden independently landed on the same window, 2028 or 2029, on the Xbox 2 podcast in May 2026, which means two separate industry insiders converged on identical math without coordinating. The thing is, this camp isn't exciting. They're not predicting shadow drops or secret continents. They're predicting responsible project management timelines, which, in the gaming industry, apparently qualifies as a radical act. No drama, just cold numbers doing cold number things. A tier. Skyrim has sold 65 million copies. Bethesda's own internal memo cited that number directly alongside a line confirming TES6 as their primary development focus, stapling the franchise's financial legacy to the game's existence. Fans grabbed that memo and built an entire safety net argument. Microsoft paid $7.5 billion for ZeniMax in 2021. Layoffs hit in July 2026. Starfield underperformed, and yet TES6 cannot be quietly buried because the IP alone is worth more than most studios combined. The logic is sound. You don't acquire the franchise that printed 65 million copies and fumble its successor over internal turbulence. That's not cope, that's basic corporate self-preservation. But they won't let it fail, and they won't let it take forever are two completely different promises, and fans keep treating them as the same sentence. Microsoft will protect the asset. The asset will still take until 2029. B tier. 36 seconds. That's all Bethesda gave the world in June 2018. No gameplay, characters, or dialogue, just a slow camera crawl over rocky coastline and a title card. 36 seconds. The community responded by spending the next 7+ years treating it like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Analysis videos hit within days. Bird flight paths decoded as geographic coordinates. Rock striations cross-referenced against geological surveys of the Iliac Bay region. One guy mapped the horizon curvature against a topographical model of Hammerfell's coastline and posted 17 pages of findings. 17 pages! For a trailer containing 0 confirmed story information and 1 mountain, this became the founding sacred text of all TES6 speculation culture. Every theory after it, the Hammerfell lock-in, the dual region argument, the Elsewhere wildcards, traces its lineage back to people squinting at compressed YouTube footage and declaring geological certainty. These are the scholars. The monks of the 36-second monastery, meticulous, obsessive, completely operating without a source document. Somehow, they're also not entirely wrong about Hammerfell, which makes this simultaneously the most delusional and most productive cope on the list. B tier. Now here's where the math kids showed up. Todd Howard told Variety in 2026 that the majority of Bethesda Studios is working full-time on TES6, fully playable, in-engine confirmed by Matt Booty himself, and the Optimist community immediately opened Excel. The logic goes, if Bethesda exited pre-production in 2023, entered full development in 2024, and the majority of the studio is now on it full-time, that's roughly a 3 to 4 year runway from a standing start, which arithmetically lands you at 2027, maximum. It's actually the most structurally coherent argument on this entire list. Real dates, quotes, and real studio headcount logic. And then Jason Schreier said 2028, at the earliest, possibly 2029, and the spreadsheet quietly closed itself. The most mathematically rigorous hopium on the countdown, defeated by one Bloomberg sentence. C tier. Then there's the Akavir crowd. Akavir is a completely separate continent. No coastline in the teaser matches it, no lore breadcrumb points there, and Bethesda has never once gestured in that direction. The entire theory is built on vibes, a deep-cut lore wiki spiral, and apparently one Reddit thread that got way too many upvotes. It just makes sense, lore-wise. Brother, the teaser is 36 seconds of rocks. This is the purest, most uncut delusion on the entire countdown, and somehow it still has believers. A tier. But before we get to the one theory that actually has receipts, we have to talk about the darkest timeline. Microsoft closes studios. That's not a theory anymore. That's a 2024-2025 press release. Tango Gameworks, Arcane Austin, Alpha Dog, Roundhouse, gone. Xbox's studio closure pattern that year reads less like a business restructuring and more like a horror film with a budget. So the nuclear doomer theory goes like this. Microsoft restructures or quietly sells Bethesda before TES6 ever ships. The layoffs hit Bethesda in July 2026. Jason Schreier confirmed them the same week he said the game was still 2+ years out. The Xbox division has been bleeding public trust since roughly 2022. This is the theory nobody wants to say out loud, the cope that dare not speak its name. That would never happen to Bethesda. Famous last words from every Arcane Austin fan in 2023. 65 million Skyrim copies says Microsoft won't pull the plug. The studio closure spreadsheet says otherwise. F tier, but the kind of F tier that keeps you up at night. And here we are, the theory that isn't really a theory anymore. Bethesda's internal memo dropped with the precision of a legal document and the confidence of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The memo stated, word for word, that the Elder Scrolls VI is our primary development focus today. That same document cited 65 million Skyrim copies sold as context for why this matters financially. Then Matt Booty, Xbox Chief Content Officer, confirmed on record that he had personally seen TES6 running in engine. Then Todd Howard told Variety the game is fully playable and that the majority of Bethesda Studios is working full-time on it. 3 separate credentialed sources, 1 internal memo, 1 Xbox executive, 1 Todd Howard Variety, quote, all pointing the same direction. The thing is, none of this tells you when. Jason Schreier said 2028 at the floor, possibly 2029 or later, the same month all of this came out. So you have the most verified development confirmation in TES6 history sitting right next to a release window that still sounds like a threat. Fully playable, majority of the studio, primary focus. It's going to be a while yet. Todd Howard, February 2025. Somehow, the most confirmed thing on this entire list still ends with a shrug. S tier, obviously. S tier goes to touching grass while Bethesda finishes. Subscribe for more tier lists.